We want our kids to be self-advocates, understand who you are, understand what you bring to the table. You have to let these things sink in. You have to reflect on these. And these skill sets, you may not understand that it's actually a skill set. So let's look at different ways that what you do inside and outside of the classroom, how can you attach one of these 10 essential skills to who you are and what you did.
Hello and welcome to the Future is Clear Teach Like It's 2045 webcast series. My name is Scott Carr from CESA 2. Today's topic area is building student portfolios with career and community readiness focus. Joining us today is Peter Hostrawser from Naperville School District 203 in Naperville, Illinois. Peter is no stranger to our podcast as he joined us back at the beginning of the school year. I think it was, Peter, it was September-ish, maybe?
I believe so.
Yeah, where we talked about transforming school districts and doing things differently. And that kind of aligns with our topic here today because, in our conversations, we talk a lot. You've been transforming school, man. So how you been?
Busy. We are doubling in size our career internship pathway endorsement program here. It's
Wow.
good, but it comes with some great opportunities and changes. So,
Yeah, I bet. Um, we talked a lot about this work that you're doing, and it bounces all over the place a little bit, but I know one of your big focuses is that student portfolio. And also, right, you combined like a profession-based, competency-based part of it all together. I mean, they go hand in hand, wouldn't you agree?
right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And we typically start off and talk, in my webcast series about the why, what, how. But really, why don't we start and have the conversation around why do you see the need for competency-based portfolios? Why do you see this aligning so well with this work that we're doing? Why the need?
Yeah, I think the simple answer there is that a GPA and a test score is not going to give the whole picture of someone. It's not going to share how good they are at communicating, what their teamwork is like, what kind of problem solving skills they could have in different situations. What is their adaptability to change? All these durable skills, if you will. I'm saying that coming from a point where I had a terrible, terrible standardized test score coming out of high school. My GPA was okay, but I knew how to play the game of school. So I came with more skills than schools were reporting, if you will. So that's why leaning into portfolios and understanding how students can show what they know is I think, essential to the work that we do, especially in CTE and secondary education.
Yeah, it makes sense. So give us a little bit of the year, how it's evolved. Talk a little bit also about your role at Naperville, and I know this is your first year there. You got a great
Mhm.
history. We talked about that the last time you were on the podcast. But a little bit of how this is evolving itself at Naperville.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think first, I'm a big shout out to my co-coordinator, Brett Thompson, who literally built this from scratch. Just a quick history of Naperville 203.
Yeah.
Years ago, we got rid of the co-op program, which is, cooperative learning, which was basically on skill sets and a job. Great program. Still is evident today in many areas and is very valuable to a lot of learners. But the school district here chose to go a different pathway. So 3 years ago, we were tasked with, Brett was tasked with building an actual program from scratch. So that program came through the Illinois School Board saying that there's ISBE pathway endorsements, right? So you have like health, occupations, you have technology, you have all these business, IT. And what they were doing is they're setting up a way where students take a few courses in the school year And some of those courses must be dual credited with a local community college. So, for example, a kid would take a couple of software classes, a computer programming and an engineering class. And then they could go into a software engineering pathway endorsement program, which means they have to go through an internship. The internship was what Brett built here, the way that we do things. At the beginning of the year, we just built upon what he had. We had about 45 students. We had to find placements. Our students are working on projects, all different kinds of things, from like front-end coding to marketing and accounting. We have one at a local baseball team, a semi-pro baseball team that
Oh, wow.
they're taking a look at, their what they spent on, giveaways last year and were they effective. I mean, we have a student actually doing that data analysis through kind of an accounting lens. So, how things have progressed through the year is we're finding there's a lot of different ways that we can do internships, and there's a lot of different ways that we can have our students show those skill sets and reflect upon those skill sets. And yeah, it's been growing. Yeah, I could tell 15 different directions that we're going in, but we're really throwing a lot against the wall and seeing what sticks.
Right. Wow. That's super cool. I know just before we got on the podcast, you talked about your numbers have more than doubled so far
Correct. Yeah.
this next year. Tell us a little bit about the program itself in relationship then to portfolios and how they are a part of it.
Right, right. So in the program, basically the academic side of the program, there's an academic side and a professional side. What we really believe in is helping somebody build academically, which is already set in stone. It's our systems, whether it's traditional or innovative, it's always been there. What we are looking at doing is building that professional individual, helping our students understand that there is an intersection there, and they're kind of parallel throughout your K through grade journey. And for some reason, we got away from that years ago, the college for all, and everybody had to do just the academic part, which, that worked for people. Not everybody, obviously, as we know. But even people who were going to college, there was like, I'm coming out of college and I don't even know my skill sets. I don't really know how to network, et cetera. So we're building that. So as our students kind of go through our program on the academic side, we help them, number one, build their resumes and actually put them more outside of an academic realm and start putting them into a professional interest area that they're in. So that's kind of the biggest change. Most of our kids come in with a resume. We have a few that have never had one. Then we start to go into, the skill sets and what does it look like to interview for a job. And inside of all these, there's a cross-sector competency list that is given to us by ISBE, which is the State Board of Education, that our students have to reflect on a few of those. You can find skills just like that in durable skills. If you go to durable skills organization, nobody's using soft skills anymore, I don't think. But anyway, so our students, what we do there is we were having them go through an ed tech program to kind of learn those. It was sort of a, kind of a question answer thing, and it would like rate you on where you were, like say on a written communication skill or a problem solving skill. It wasn't that effective for our students. Our students would just click to check the box. So what we realized that very early. So we decided to go the portfolio route. Portfolios are nothing new, right? You have artistic portfolios. That's usually where the most creative portfolios are. You have visual arts and those types of portfolios, but portfolios have made their way into, like a LinkedIn, if you will, portfolios. We use SpikeView as our platform where students actually can show what they know. So we now, for the second semester that we're working on, we do have new students that show up and take our class in January. We have transitioned the ed tech part of checking the box for those skill sets to having them reflect, have conversations within the classroom on Canvas, which is our LMS, and then taking their top 3 to 5 and telling their story and showing their story on their SpikeView portfolio. So that becomes an experience. So they can actually show an entity, maybe somebody in college, an admin, somebody who they're going for, maybe a job, that they can show, hey, these are my top 3 skills, and they're not just a grade, they're not just a test score.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your students um, actually demonstrate this. Who do they demonstrate it to? Is it you and Brett? Is it business partners? Give an example of once a kid has that portfolio, how do they demonstrate? What do they do with it?
Right. So that's a good question. So as they go through the process to understand, their skill sets, that first conversation is happening within the class. So there is a class conversation. They're tasked with actually looking at how that skill set is being evident in where they are right at a certain time in their experience. So, for example, say a kid is growing a marketing social media marketing calendar, and they're building these things. So we'll have that student say, this week we want you to look at let's go problem solving, right? So how are you using problem solving skills to go through that? And, they'll unpack that. So then what they do, then they put it into their SpikeView. They have a conversation when they're logging their hours. I should go back for a minute. They log their hours we use School Links for that. And in that, they write a couple sentences just so they can remember that instance of how they use that skill set. Then they'll take their top skills and they'll put them into SpikeView as they go along. At the end of the semester, the students will sit down. We will sit down with them, or usually it's on a Zoom call with their supervisor and themselves, and they go through all 10 of those competencies plus a couple more technical skills, where both of them give their evaluation of, were you great? Were you good? Do you need some work on this? And there's a little bit of a conversation there. So all that happens during the semester. Now, once they have this portfolio, there's a lot of different places that students can use it and do use it. For example, we had a student who was applying to the University of Tennessee, and that university, because they're obviously not in Illinois and they don't really coincide with what we're doing here with pathway endorsements, she was able to show what a pathway endorsement is and her top skills to that admissions counselor, right? So there's one way there. If they're looking for other internships down the road, like they go on, most of our students, we have one junior, rest of them are seniors. When they go to the next level of whatever their education is, if there's an internship, an apprenticeship in there, this can be part of that application process. And obviously with actual employment, it also can be. So the answer is yes. It goes through everybody, and they can use it for anybody and everybody. The one thing that we like about this platform is that it is SOPA agreed, right? So it's okay through a teen level of a school system. And the other thing is the students actually own all the data. It's not sold or anything like that, and they can turn things on and off, right? So, for example, we used to do things with Weebly and Wix, where those are great platforms. Google Docs has kind of changed us up a little bit, but if you put that out, it's out there, right? What the students can do on this type of portfolio is they can have us check it. They don't publish it. It doesn't go out into the world. They can control all those, basically turn off and on any kind of thing that's on their portfolio. So that to me is something where you have youth who are building who they are. They're going to make mistakes. You don't want to put out a terrible product. It's okay if it's got a few errors on it, I would think, because, hey, we're people. I mean, I have errors probably on my LinkedIn, but
Right.
We coach them through that. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different avenues that they can use it.
Yeah, I know you and I talked a while back, and we've had conversations around SpikeView. So let those listening know that, or talk about how that evolved, right? So what were you doing before a platform like SpikeView? But even more so, how did you roll into SpikeView? What are some of the pieces that that students are able to embrace and utilize in a platform like that? Whether you're using SpikeView or something similar, what are the advantages? What are kids doing in that platform?
I would say, I'll say my pathway first, and actually in about a minute, there's going to be a bell ring here, so I may mute real quick. But
Sure.
one of the things that our students were really looking at before this is we were just building in the Wild West, right? So these were previous schools that I was at. So students would, and most of it was in computer science courses that I taught. So they would build in, maybe a website that they created, or, some programming or gaming or spreadsheet. And they would put them out there in pictures and different things like that. It was very basic. I would guess it would be like a poster board digitally, right? And I think our biggest challenge, like I said, going back, was kind of safety and in different things where we would come and students would say, I'm gonna create something on Weebly or Wix. And they were like, I'm not going to publish it, but I'm going to put you as a co-author on it because I don't feel comfortable putting anything out there.
Yeah.
So that was a check off, like, wait a minute. And that's what SpikeView does, is it gives them the power to, hey, if you want to put it out there, you can. If not, hey, it is what it is. So that's where we were. Where I was. And as we're building forward, I met Ektasasi, who's the founder of SpikeView, through another colleague of mine. And basically what we did is we shared the exact same struggles. The number one thing that a portfolio in general offers students is a mindset that you can't just check the box. And that's a hard mindset to teach, but we're teaching
Right.
that. And we're attempting in their school, because we go through the pathway endorsements, to do that at an earlier and earlier age. Like, it's very hard to flick that switch off after 12 years of education when somebody's just following. So that's one of the main things that I really love about a portfolio platform, is that it lets the student know, look, I'm not grading you. The world is grading you. So
Right.
to
Right.
me, that's something that kids can get out of it. A couple of the features that we use on SpikeView is we challenge the kids to give a pitch. So they have to do a video pitch, a 90-seconder, and they can post it. A lot of students at first will avoid that like the plague, man. They're like, I don't want to be on screen or anything like that. And I'm like, you can do this and you can just turn that off. You don't have to show that when you publish the link to your SpikeView. Right. So that's something that we really like. The other thing is it gives them, we always talk to this generation about, all right, you're putting your social medias out there, you better clean them up. You can't be doing all this crazy stuff. And then they see it down there where you can put your social medias in there. But we do have some students who are very creative. They have a YouTube channel. They've got a TikTok, and they're creating things that are kind of how-to videos. They're creating actual marketing for other companies and their clubs and different things that they're involved in. So that is an asset. So we teach them, hey, you know what? As you're putting these things out there, you can again, check those off or keep them unchecked. But we encourage them to show those types of things. In addition to the experiences that I was talking about, where they're putting all their different skill sets in, they do have opportunity. It actually builds a resume for them, believe it or not. So there's AI embraced into it. It's not the best. It's interesting though. And a kid can play around with that. They can upload their own resume as well. And there is a lot of AI that is coming into this, where students answer a few questions, and it kind of gives them feedback on what they could use for like a summary or an objective statement and those types of things. I think the biggest thing I'm going to go back to is what I really like about this platform is that it actually has a way where students can choose. I'm gonna turn all these different things on and off that I want maybe somebody to see. So say a kid is into sports med, and he's got something over here where he's building robotics. Well, it doesn't really have anything to do with it, and they don't want it. So they can turn that story off. then they can publish it and create a link. And what I like about the link is they can set that link to never expire or expire after so many days. So I could send you that link and it has all my sports stuff and nothing else. I mean, I may have some other stuff in there that it could be something for a different area, but not this. And I can let that link be live for 10 days or 20 days or 30 days, and then it goes dead after that. That's a lot of power in the students' hands to show their portfolios. And I think going back to that first student that I was talking about when they were on their Weebly or Wix and they were like, I do not want to publish this. They're not ready yet. This solves that problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I that's some really good stuff that you've got going. And I know like we've talked about, you're at the beginning stages, yet you're already invested in this and you've got students invested in it. And we've talked before, and some of the work that I've done at the end game is moving towards that competency based, the portfolio where it lands, for the reason of to have that focus on real world application, that industry aligned evidence, which really is going to go a long ways, for the student, but also for those that are receiving the student.
Right.
But also the demonstration of growth over time, and you kind of talked about that. What are you seeing as responses out of your students? I'm really curious, right? Because this is something different. I mean, unless they're
Yeah.
also having some of this in classrooms, which maybe some teachers do, but at the end of this, at the end game, we're seeing a portfolio of evidence that's profession based, and we know
Right.
that's happening in classrooms. But but what's the response of your students?
Yeah, I'll tell you a story about one student who's an IT student, and we shared out at the beginning of this semester because we have students, it's a repeatable course. So the students can take the class a second semester, and then we have new students come in. So what I did is I didn't want to throw the portfolios at the students, but I was like, can you highlight a couple of things in your portfolio that you want these students to know? Because they're coming in to this program and you would have liked to known this as you were before you came into the program. And one of our IT students said something that was very, very interesting. And I think it goes to, grit and tenacity and understanding, how you keep failing forward. He mentioned, and this is in one of his stories on Spikeview as well. He mentioned the fact that when he was doing a lot of coding work, he they kept sending the code back to him two or three or four times and saying there's errors in it and there's errors in it. And his question, he had to pause and ask his supervisor, is this normal? Like, am I an idiot here? Do I not know how to code? And the supervisor taught him right then and there that that's the agile way. He's like, no, this is the way we move forward. Yeah, this is normal. It is normal to mess up code over and over again until you get it right. And guess what? We usually don't always teach that in school, right? So that's that skill that kid is able to transpire onto a portfolio and let people know in the industry, hey, guess what? I don't have a straight A kid coming through who's not used to failing. This kid understands the fact that he can code and he can make mistakes and he understands that he doesn't get knocked down and just quit. So that's a great story of how these kids are starting to talk about and communicate these skill sets. The funny thing is we're concurrently teaching them the skill sets, which they don't really understand that these are skill sets. That
Right.
what he just said is a skill, because it's your consistency and you're moving forward in the face of a failure. I mean, your traditional 4.0 student who's got a 1500 on an SAT, and if they didn't have to work for that, which I know a lot of students don't, like that are in the academic sense, the first time they fail is going to be very traumatic for them. And that's what the workforce is telling us. We need people who are able
Yeah.
to take shots. You're a Lombardi guy, right? It's not whether you get knocked down or not, it's how you get up.
And getting back up,
Yep.
exactly. Yeah, that's some really good stuff. Um, one of the pieces I really like to lean into and think about is just what you said before here, and that is, even Tim Taylor from America Succeeds recognizes this, or America Succeeds with the durable skills recognize this. You don't intentionally teach durable skills. They happen through these experiences, the applied experiences that our students are going through. And that is so needed. So it's really cool that you guys have that taking place, and then you've paired the portfolio and the competencies right along with it. Really, really good stuff. Talk a little bit more about your state and the competencies that they have aligned to what I would call work-based learning. But then you've done some really unique things with those competencies kind of to build in the opportunities for students to engage more.
Mhm.
You've shared some of those PDFs that are interactive, but talk about how did the state determine these competencies? Where did they come from? And then talk a little bit about how you're incorporating them more in detail with what you guys are doing.
Sure. In about 5 seconds, the bell's gonna ring, just letting everybody know
No
that I'm
worries.
in the classroom and I'm working, man. So that's legit. All right, there it is.
We're
Okay.
good. We can't hear it. I can't
Yeah.
anyway.
Oh, you couldn't hear it? Okay.
No, we're all good.
So, yeah, the competencies of the state always, I mean, certain states like to use a lot of ink. So they actually call it
Yeah.
cross-sector essential employability competencies, which basically are these essential skills, if you will.
Mm.
And so the 10, and I'll run through them real quickly. There's teamwork and conflict resolution. There's communication on a verbal, written, and digital part, problem solving, decision making, critical thinking, adaptability and flexibility, initiative and self drive, reliability and accountability, cultural competence, and planning and organizing. So, what the state did is did some research in some different areas. They have a team down there in Springfield that basically works with business professionals, and does a lot of work in the post-secondary area of research. And to my knowledge, that's how they came up with these competencies. And basically, if you look at durable skills, if you look at essential skills, if you look at soft skills across the world, basically, these are the top 10. I mean, I did a little research in University of Virginia, put some things out. Georgia, as a state, and Atlanta area has put some different things out. You guys have done some research and taking a look at these skills. They can be called something slightly different, but essentially they're pretty much all the same. So, as we do this and we take a look at these things, again, I'm going to go back to a couple of the students and what they were talking about in these areas is that they don't realize that these skills are, well, essential, that they are actually as important, or in some people's opinion, and I'll mine in there, more important
Yeah.
than some of the skills that are technical skills and some academic skills.
Yeah.
I won't say all, because academics they're the
Right.
base, they're the foundation. So I think, the things that we're working on, and we're continuing to work on this, is it goes back to that mindset, that mindset that you've got to like look inward. Because I think Jason Van Nuss, and we were talking about it as well, is CTE is SEL, right? CTE,
Mm-hmm.
career technical education, is
Hmm.
social emotional learning. And how do you get somebody to look back inward and kind of reflect on what they do and what they did? Well, number one, like in the traditional academic sense, right? We would tell a kid, hey, I think you communicated there well. We may put it on a rubric, which
Right.
works to, there goes the bell, to another point. But like also though, we want our kids to be self-advocates. We understand who you are, understand what you bring to the table and how others perceive you. And what we make sure is they understand is, like, you have to take a moment, you have to let these things sink in, you have to reflect on these, and these skill sets, you may not understand that it's actually a skill set. So let's look at different ways that what you do inside and outside of the classroom, in our case, mostly outside of the classroom, how can you attach one of these 10 essential skills
Mhm.
to who you are and what you did? And there's some light bulb moments, a lot of light bulb
Oh,
moments
I
in
can
this.
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me wonder a little bit. I don't know if we've talked about this, but our process of our educational system being that A to Z kind of a
Hmm.
concept, right? Where as educators, we identify here's the product, here's what you're going to need to know, and then you then represent the process for them as far as learning. It's kind of goes all the way back to when we were taught how to teach. It's I do, we do, you do.
Hmm.
um, I love how you talk about these experiences offer the ability to grow those durable skills, if you would, and go ahead and say it. Academic skills and even technical skills nowadays, you can find a lot of different avenues to learn those.
Hmm.
Um, where do you see this relationship? Because this is some great work, but where do you see this relationship crossing over with our classrooms, with our core subject areas? How are we going to marry this together?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the things that we're doing here in this district is we're very intentional. Dan Bridges,
Mm,
our sorry, Bell, our superintendent, is very intentional on em embracing these skill sets as early as sixth grade, maybe even earlier. But right now, we start through sixth through eighth grade, our kids are actually going through an area where they are interacting with professionals out in the world, right? Where we're starting to help them experience and have a career connection, if you will. It doesn't mean that students have to pick a career or anything like that. It's just that they're exposed. So that's one thing that they're doing at an earlier age. And what we are doing now at the high school level is within this cross was it the CCPE, which is our career and college pathway endorsements. The students have to go through a couple of team-based challenges, right? And these are living right now mostly in our elective courses, our CTE and art courses. They are going to go into our core courses. And I'm using those terms as a traditional sense. I don't like them, but it is what it is. But they're going to be engaged into, math courses and the science courses, into English and history courses. You can pull those things out, those skill sets out of pretty much anything in those courses if you're intentional with it. So one of the things that we are doing with our team-based challenges and our cross-sector competencies being embraced and put into our PLCs of those is we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we help those educators put those a into a piece of curriculum so the kids are seeing them across the board. I think what this is going to do is number one, it's going to continue to help our students, our young people build their academic and professional selves, right? So we're going to minimize gaps between your learning and your certifications and your degrees and your work self, which is very, very important. The other thing that I think it's going to do is it's going to help personalize education. I think it's going to help personalize, why do we teach math? Why do I need to know
right.
algebra? Blah, 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 right? There's always a why there. It's not explained too much, or the focus has always been on, I've got to get this data, this score up to a certain level, right? So I think embracing these pieces, again, I go back to one of my first podcasts on Disrupt Education podcast was when we were interviewing a blacksmith. I mean, he's hammering away and he's teaching me, which I never took calculus, but he's teaching me calculus. Tell
Wow.
me if I had like a hot fire and a hammer, and somebody was saying this is the problem solving essential skill that you're gonna work with while you are actually in class, that's exactly where I would be. I would love to do that. So
Yeah,
I think, we may not go that far, but I think it's going to give everybody, including educators and community
yeah,
members, the why behind we're doing things. Because at the end of the day, why do we go get
yeah.
degrees? Why do we want all this stuff? Is it a pat on the back? No, I mean, I want to make money. I want to be able to, have my family, be able to provide for a family, and actually hopefully help solve some problems in society while we're doing it.
Right. Well, I'd say we have to move to that direction because what you just described is a Z to A approach versus A to Z,
Hmm.
right? Which brings the relevance to the table for the kid and allows kids to use that curiosity, allows the kids to go back to the imagination that they all once had back in kindergarten, first, second, third grade. And as we know, our system itself conditionalizes our students to eliminate that opportunity. So
Hmm.
to your point, it's definitely needed. Let me ask you one thing before we head out of here. Where do you see mastery transcripts pulling coming into all of this? You're familiar, obviously, with mastery transcripts and right how we demonstrate our learning and where it lands because
Hmm.
we're having portfolios. We're potentially moving away from grades, A, B, C's, things of that nature, maybe even eventually grade point averages and things of that nature. So where do you see the future lying for us as that evolves?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah,
I think they can live together. I think there's a lot of information and data in grades and in certain test scores that can coincide and live
mhm,
with a portfolio where it's a kind of a value-based or skills-based portfolio. So, for example, right, like you have a kid who maybe is getting a C minus average, but their portfolio is killer. Like they're doing amazing things. Well, you got a couple of questions. Number one, is this really that kid doing amazing things? And then number two, like the other thing is, well, okay, so how did you find time to do all this stuff? And why wasn't like, you could have done that in class or whatever. It opens up conversations, I think, about individuals. So in my case, basically, if you went back and I built a portfolio back in the day, it would mostly be in college because that was when I started experiencing things. So as a broadcast journalism major, I had a reel. I had old school like VHS, but if I could upload that into a digital
yeah,
world and I could show, as a matter of fact, my portfolio, I do have a Spike View portfolio that actually shows how I edit my podcast, how I use Canvas, how I use a bunch of other platforms. Um, and then they would see, okay, well, you don't really have like a great SAT score, right? Which my SAT score was horrible. Well, then I can have the conversation. You can open that in a story. I could tell that. As a matter of fact, I think I wrote that blog and I think I put it inside my portfolio, but you could tell that in the portfolio, right? It goes the other way as well, right? So I've had students build portfolios before. At the previous schools that I was at, a student basically showed how he understood how to problem solve while he was studying for the ACT. So
wow,
his first ACT score was bad, according to him. I don't remember what it was. And so he just went through the basics of studying again, took it a second time, and then basically scored the same. And he figured out, well, why am I doing all this studying? He figured out where he was able to tear apart like where his challenges were in the test, and then he had changed up the way that he studied for the test to focus on his challenge areas, not the areas that he would like just waste time that he already knew. And he increased his score by like 4 or 5 points, right? That story is different than I just took a test and I got a,
yeah,
28 on my ACT. So it can work in both ways, I think. I think at the end of the day, though, what we need more is, I think we need, and we're getting there, we need more industry leaders and innovators helping our boards of education understand what they're really looking for and how they're looking for them. Again, I have never, I mean, I've worked in the work world before. I worked in sales. I've done a lot of different things. I mean, not just education. And education is actually the only place where they've asked me about my GPA or put my GPA down on a major in college. Well, one of the things I love to ask is when people are around college professors or whatever, ask them what they got their PhD in. It's highly likely no one ever asked them about what my dissertation was on or anything like that. So
Right. Right.
that's not to discount it. I mean, there's a process there. But if our companies and industries and organizations are looking for something different, I feel like this is a transition to a better communication way to help them understand and actually experience our students as well as our students experience opportunities out there to really close that gap and to say, okay, well, this kid got straight A's, great SAT score, but their teammates hate them at job because they haven't been
Yeah.
really able to experience that. So I think it's going to start to lean the other way, but again, there's got to be legislation there. There's got to be money. You follow the money, the governmental money. If that's going to be based on GPAs and test scores, well, of course they're going to stick around. So I think there's a lot of different places that it can change. I do see it leaning away from that. But you also want to be careful of, a traditional sense and a non-traditional sense
Yeah.
is the accountability partner, the accountability of where a student comes in. I'll tell you what, like if we saw what we saw in COVID, where in Illinois, they said it was the last semester of that 2020 year that a student could not get a bad grade. It's a mindset problem, right?
Right.
Because my son, who was a junior at the time, sorry, he was a sophomore. I was like, "You are doing this work, and I'm going to be your teacher. Like, I'm going to be over your shoulder." But a lot of students are like, "No
Yeah.
grade, no problem," right? So then, how do you change that mindset or help them understand? I think you have to connect community and your education systems together.
Yeah. Yeah. As you describe it, it goes back to it has to be relevant, right? I mean, that's the big piece. I mean, our whole conversation here, the end product lands in a portfolio. For that portfolio to really have merit and value, that kid has to be on a path that has some relevancy to it. And then to your point, yeah, the academic piece to it, graded or however you measure it, right? Proficient or not or above, all of that has to have that relevance to it for it to culminate at the end, for what's best for our students.
Right,
That
right.
journey doesn't end at graduation. It's a continuation. You're
Yeah.
constantly learning, upskilling, new skilling. So, real quick, if you would here, what advice could you give a district or others, if they were thinking to move in this path of, the competency, but also landing this in portfolios? What would you advise them?
Yeah, I think a couple of things, and we're playing around with this. Well, number one, like find a platform that works for you. You might even be in an ed tech program right now that has a sort of a portfolio in it,
Mhm.
which they're going to be evolving. There's a lot of different platforms. We use SpikeView, like I said. I don't want to be a commercial here, but I've been working with them and we really like them. I think that's one thing. The second thing is like it's constantly asking kids, how can you show what you know? Well,
Mhm.
ask everybody, right? As educators, we would come into a job, and I remember when I got hired, I had a portfolio. It was paper. I mean, it was in a big bin. So
Yeah.
you kind of have to ask yourself, so what would you like to see in a teacher hire? And then let's go backwards and let's just start with what we know. I think
Mhm.
that's a good starting point for a school. And I think the other thing is what we are about to do, and we're looking at either we're going to do it at the end of this semester, this current semester in our summer session, is we're going to bring more and more of our outside community members in to evaluate a student's portfolio.
Mm,
It really can't
mm,
be just
mm.
educators doing it. And I think that's a
Great.
big challenge, because I don't want to hold the grade for a kid who may be going down in a software engineering pathway where I don't really know about that, right?
Mm,
So I need to find somebody who's in that, hopefully in like an HR area of that, where they can take a look and give real feedback to that student, as they're building it. So I think community's got to be involved too. So like I said, yeah, looking at platforms, you can do this on Google Docs. I mean, you can basically, I mean, you don't have to share Google Docs, you don't have to do all these different things there. So you can do these things. But making sure that a kid sees it, right? I think going back to one of the last things is have the students own it. You do not have to create it.
yeah.
They're going to be different. There's going to be individualization here. We're going to be working with students, and they're going to be uncomfortable. They're not used to showing what they know. They're used to playing the game. I played the game. I got like a 3.6 GPA in high school. Trust me, I wasn't that
Very
smart in high
good.
school. Yeah. But basically, when you look at these things, like one of the things that we do is we have students give their self pitches and we film them on their own phones, and then we go watch it and then tell yourself, you don't have to show anybody else, but you can see you might have a nervous tick, or you don't really look at the camera or the other person, and that's okay. That's a starting point. So I think we need to get rid of this. Everything's perfect. Everything needs to be perfect. A 4.0 to me in this world means that you can pretty darn good sell who you are and understand what your skill sets are, your top 3 or 4 essential skills, and be able to show somebody, hey, this is what I built with those skills.
Yeah.
That to me is a success story. So that
Yeah.
would be quote unquote the A, if you want, in a traditional grading system.
Yeah, some good advice. Good advice. I get a lot of schools that I'm working with asking, how do we get there?
Mhm.
And it sounds like you guys have done the work up front, though, also. You just can't jump to portfolios. You just can't jump to competency, profession-based, assessments. All right, so we're at the end of
Mhm.
our webcast here. I usually ask, what is our tagline here is teach like it's 2045. Give me, what do you see 3, 4, 5, 6 years out, at Naperville with the work that you're doing around this? What would you like to see it become over the next few years or even down the road a little ways?
Right. I like the fact that we are moving into an area where these essential skills are going to be embedded into everything that we do. Students are going to know before they walk into their career internship area, or when they walk across the stage, what their top skills are going to be, even no matter what their GPA is, no matter what their test scores are. I see that happening here. I see that. Again, it takes some time. It takes even the mindset of educators. I mean, it's a different mindset. And again, there's some great things in the traditional system, but I also see the fact that these skill sets are going to be becoming part of the transition from a secondary to a post-secondary opportunity, whether that's college,
Yeah,
military, trade
yeah,
school, entrepreneurship, going right into the workforce, whatever, gap years. Students will be better off once they know themselves this way, regardless of where their academics land. So this is, like I said, it's SCL, and I see that happening here in the next 3 to 5 years, which is exciting.
yeah. Some really good stuff.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Peter, for taking the time for the second time around. If people are interested in getting a hold of you, I know you love to network. How can they do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn is my mainstay, so just drop me a DM on LinkedIn, Peter Hostrawser. You can go to peterhostrawser.com or disrupteducation.co. That is my personal website. And actually, Allie Privet and I, we run the Disrupt Education
Yeah.
podcast, which we are building a website right now. It's called disrupteducationpodcast.com. It's up, and you can connect with me there too. But LinkedIn is the number one all day long.
Yeah, I will say it's a great podcast. You've had a lot of really, really good people on there. I share it out quite a bit, so appreciate you
Yeah.
guys and the hard work that you put into it. So
Thank you.
appreciate it again, Peter. And thank you for joining us. As we move forward, remember the future is clear. Take care, everybody.